Today we're going to dive into this really incredible story from the Buddhist scriptures. It's got everything: a god, a powerful teaching, and a celestial palace that gets, well, literally shaken to its core just to teach a lesson about our own minds. So it all starts with this one central question. And it's not just a question for us mortals, it's for the highest beings out there. How in the world do you actually teach a god to let go? And the one asking this huge question is Sāka, who's basically the king of the gods. He goes to the Buddha and he wants the shortcut, not some long, drawn-out philosophy, but the most direct path to being totally free. And the Buddha's response, well, it's the heart of this entire story. He doesn't give a sermon, he gives a single powerful sentence in the ancient language of Pali. And this one phrase, it holds the key to everything. So what does it mean? Translated, it's this: nothing whatsoever is worth clinging to. Just let that sink in for a second. Not just the bad stuff, not just some stuff, nothing. This is it. This is the core teaching for being completely free from suffering. The Buddha then gives a super quick breakdown of how to put this into practice. First, you hear the teaching. Got it. Then, with that idea in your head, you just watch everything. All your feelings, good, bad, neutral, you just observe them without getting hooked. And when you can do that, the clinging just naturally falls away. And just like that, Sāka seems to totally get it. He's thrilled, he bows to the Buddha, and poof, he vanishes. Lesson learned, right? End of story. Well, not so fast. You see, someone else was watching this whole exchange. Moggallana, one of the Buddha's top disciples. And he had this feeling, this doubt. I mean, could a being like Sāka, who is surrounded by constant pleasure, really absorb a lesson that deep, that quickly? So Moggallana decides, you know what? I'm going to go check. And using his pretty incredible psychic powers, he just zips from the human world and in an instant appears in the heavenly realm to see if that teaching actually stuck. And what does he find? Oh boy, he finds Sāka in his garden, completely lost in his own little world, being entertained by 500 celestial musicians. He is the polar opposite of not clinging. He's totally absorbed in sensory pleasure. So when Moggallana asks him, hey, can you repeat that teaching from the Buddha? Sāka gets all flustered. He comes up with this excuse saying, oh, we gods, we're just so busy, so much to do. Sometimes the important things we hear, they just kind of slip away. And then he does that classic thing we all do when we're trying to change the subject. He immediately starts boasting about his amazing palace, Vijayanta. He's totally deflecting from the deep lesson about non-attachment by pointing to his biggest, shiniest attachment. He starts trying to impress Moggallana with just how grand it is. He's like, you have to see it. It's got 100 magnificent towers reaching up into the sky. And the scale of this place is just, it's hard to even imagine. Inside every single one of those 100 towers, there are 700 grand chambers. And it keeps going. In each one of those thousands and thousands of rooms, there are 7 celestial nymphs. This thing isn't a palace, it's a universe of pleasure. It's basically the ultimate distraction machine. Moggallana is just taking all this in, and he sees the situation with total clarity. He thinks to himself, wow, this god is living in a state of extreme carelessness, just completely lost. That profound teaching from the Buddha, it's been buried. At this point, Moggallana knows that just saying, hey, remember that thing about not clinging, isn't going to cut it. The distraction is just too powerful. He needs to do something big, something dramatic, a real shock to the system. And what he does next is so simple but so powerful. He just focuses his mind, channels his psychic power, and gently touches the floor of this magnificent palace with his big toe. And with that one little touch, the whole place starts to go wild. The scriptures used 3 distinct Pali words to show the escalation. First, it's sankampesi. It starts to shake. Then it's sampakanpesi. It quakes much more intensely. And finally, it's sampavadesi. It begins to tremble so violently it feels like the whole thing is going to collapse. Sāka and all the other gods are completely freaked out, but also amazed. Their hair is standing on end. And they're all looking at each other saying, "This is incredible. Just look at the power of this monk. He can shake a divine palace with his toe?" So now, the music is forgotten. The palace doesn't seem so permanent anymore. Mahama Moggallana has Sakka's complete, 100% undivided attention. And in that moment of shocked silence, he calmly asks the question again. "So, about that teaching on freedom from craving?" And here it is, the big payoff. With his mind now totally sharp and focused from the shock, Sakka recites the Buddha's teaching perfectly, word for word, including that core phrase, "Sabe Dhamma nalam abhinivesaya." He knew it all along. And this just reveals such a deep truth, doesn't it? The wisdom was never gone. He didn't actually forget it. It was just buried under layers and layers of pleasure and pride and all the distractions of his divine life. And that's really the lesson for all of us, isn't it? The most important truths we know can get so easily lost in the noise of our daily lives. Sometimes it takes a little shakeup in our own world, a problem, a challenge, to rattle us and remind us of what's actually important. Which really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We might not have celestial palaces with 100 towers, but we all build our own little versions of Vijayanta, right? The things we cling to, the pleasures we get lost in, the daily distractions that bury our own wisdom. So the real question is, what palaces are keeping us distracted?